Welcome to The Jump. I'm George Sedano in for Rachel Nichols today, joined by two dynamic basketball minds, the legendary Hall of Famer Jackie McMullen and worldwide Momo Ramona Shelburne, ESPN NBA insider. So, ladies, we have some very spicy topics to get into today, and we'll start right here in Los Angeles, where Momo and I are. So, according to our very own Zach Lowe, numerous general managers and coaches from around the league say that they would draft one LeBron Raymond James, number one, in a winner-take-all game. By the way, LeBron is 36 years old, coming off a year where he averaged 25 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, and 7.8 assists per game last season. So, Ramona, I'll start with you. If you had your top overall pick in a winner-take-all game, basically the storyline of Space Jam, which we saw LeBron in, who would you take?
LeBron. Until he falls off the mountain as the king, I'm going with him. I know last year he was hurt, but we still saw probably 70% LeBron James in that play-in game against Steph Curry win the game. I mean, look at the shot right over Steph. There it is, winner take all.
Yep.
I mean, you don't choose LeBron just because of how good he is individually. You choose him because of how good he makes his teammates and how well he sees the game. Kevin Durant is right there, so close, right one level below, but I guess maybe just the length of his shoe.
Wow.
The length of his shoe behind LeBron?
That's too soon, I think, still. Too soon still. Jackie, what do you think?
Yeah. Wow, a lot of LA love going around on this panel today, Momo. And listen, if someone said to me, we just drew straws, you got LeBron, I wouldn't be unhappy. I would like my chances for all the reasons Ramona just stated. But if you're telling me about one game at this moment, on this day, give me Kevin Durant, who I do not believe is a notch below and just proved it in Tokyo. He's also 3 or 4 years younger than LeBron and has a little more tools at this point of his career. He's in the prime of his career. He can kill you so many different ways on the offensive end with that size, with that quickness, with that three-point shooting. Give me Durant, but you know what? If you want to saddle me with LeBron, I'm good with it. Trust me.
You know what, Jackie? I'm with you. If I'm playing in a game against either one of you and one of you took Durant and I'm getting LeBron or vice versa, I'm good with that. Now, I do think I'm with Ramona here. If I had my druthers, if I had the number one overall pick, I would still take LeBron because for as unbelievable as Kevin Durant is, and I think he's the best scorer in the NBA. We saw what he did in the Olympics. He dragged us across the finish line at the Olympics. I still think LeBron makes the guys around him a little more viable, right? I still think that he has a slight edge in that particular regard. So, slight edge to LeBron, but I'm good with either one.
If I need one bucket, I'll go with KD.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that for sure.
Fair.
All right, sticking with LeBron.
LA spin, people. LA spin. But continue.
All right, sticking with LeBron, he's got a new running mate in Russell Westbrook. I don't know if you've heard that already. The explosive point guard was traded to his hometown here in Los Angeles on last month, basically during the draft and whatnot here. So, let me ask you this. A lot of overhaul going on in LA, Ramona. Pretty much a complete turnaround from last year's roster after the exit to the Phoenix Suns. You cover the Lakers as closely as anyone. How does Russ fit with LeBron and AD?
So the Lakers' impetus for this move is they looked at their 2020 team and said, you know what we really missed is a secondary playmaker to LeBron, the guy like playoff Rondo. And I say playoff Rondo, not Rajon Rondo, because playoff Rondo is the version they have in their mind. Now, Russ actually does a lot more than playoff Rondo did. He can get up and down the court. He can create. He can score himself. He's not probably in the same category as a shooter, but they envision him as a guy that runs next to LeBron, can take a secondary playmaker. But, George, I actually think it reminds me a bit of how they set up the offense in Cleveland and in Miami when LeBron played with Kyrie Irving and LeBron played with Dwayne Wade, where essentially you have two secondary playmakers. The key is they have to see themselves as secondary playmakers. In any other team, Kyrie Irving, Dwayne Wade are primary playmakers. Russell Westbrook has been a primary playmaker in every team he's been on. And so I see visions of him being able to set the offense the way Rondo does, of him being able to create offense and take pressure off LeBron. But I think initially they're going to have to stagger his minutes while he learns how to play off the ball and be the quote-unquote secondary playmaker to LeBron.
All right, now welcome in our audience here on ESPN News, joining us here now. So, Jackie, how do you feel Russell fits with LeBron and AD?
Well, Ramona, you mentioned the past iterations of LeBron, and you mentioned Dwayne Wade and Kyrie Irving, two very glaring differences between them and Russell Westbrook. those guys can shoot,
Yeah.
and Russell Westbrook cannot from the perimeter. And I think that's one of the problems with this deal. I would have gone with a spacer like Buddy Hield instead of Russ. But Russ Westbrook.
When LeBron was on the floor last season for the Los Angeles Lakers, they were the number 2 ranked offense in the NBA. Whether he was just sitting or he didn't play in a particular game, it then dropped to 28th in the league. So that's a pretty big gap, okay? That's basically almost first to worst in that situation. So to both your points, I do think Russell helps there. I think that Momo may be right where you stagger those minutes a little bit. But at the end of the day, and at the end of every game, they're going to have to figure out how to play together. And maybe they do need David Fizdale to go through that old Miami playbook to figure out how to make Russell Westbrook play similarly to Dwayne Wade at a somewhat similar stage of their career. All right, moving on to one of the more intriguing storylines of the NBA offseason. What will the Sixers do with Ben Simmons? Well, according to Zach Lowe and Stephen A. Smith, the Warriors are internally divided on trading for Ben Simmons. So, Jackie, the topic of Simmons joining the Warriors has heated up lately. But should they pull the trigger and actually make the deal for Ben?
Interesting decision to me, and I don't know how viable it really will be when it's all said and done, because I think Daryl Morey is going to hold out for Dame Lillard if, in fact, Dame Lillard ever decides he wants to move on. I'm a fan of Ben Simmons. I did a story with him a couple of years ago. I watched him in a gym, and I watched him shoot three-pointers. I watched him shoot perimeter jumpers. I really believe he can do it. I think right now, if he wanted to be, he could be a 34% three-point shooter. And by the way, that's not fantastic, but there's a lot of guys that shoot worse than that in this league right now. So it's all, what has he done in this offseason to get himself mentally prepared to take that step and shoot that shot? The problem the Warriors would have, if you have Ben as a non-shooter and you have Draymond Green as a non-shooter, then you've got problems at the end of a game. But if I'm Steph Curry, I'm encouraging my team to do this now. The young players are nice, but Steph has a window, Clay has a window, Draymond has a window. Capitalize on it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jack. I mean, internally, I know this reminds me a bit of when the Warriors had to decide whether they wanted to keep Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. Remember going way back in Warriors history?
Allegedly, Jerry West was the one who intervened.
Yeah, several of us. Steve Kerr, Alvin Gentry, all of them said, you know, if they trade Klay Thompson, their backcourt becomes Steph Curry and Kevin Martin, which who's going to guard anyone in that backcourt, okay? You need Klay Thompson to complement Steph Curry because he's a great defender and a great shooter. And as Jackie pointed out, if you have Draymond Green and Ben Simmons who are quote unquote, it sounds insulting to call somebody a non-shooter, but in terms of how a defense guards you, the defense are going to sag off both of them. They're going to be daring them to shoot, which means there's 5 defenders out there to stop Klay, Steph, and whoever they have probably Iguodala in the closing lineup. So that's 5 defenders on 3 offensive players. It's not a good closing lineup, but Ben Simmons has that kind of talent. And when you're in the Warriors position right now, you have to look at what you have versus what you can get. Can they get Bradley Beal eventually? If they think they have a realistic shot at Bradley Beal, I like that fit better. But in terms of Ben Simmons' ceiling and what he can do for that team as a defender, and also maybe you slide him into more of a power forward position, he becomes more of a role guy, and he doesn't have to roll to the basket guy, and you take a lot of pressure off him offensively. So it doesn't even become, hey, will he shoot threes or not? It becomes cut to the basket because you're going to be wide open all day with Steph and Clay out on the perimeter.
Listen, we know Ben has amazing handles, right? Like, I don't think anyone is debating that part of it. But to your point, Momo, I think that one of the issues that maybe Philly has run into is they don't have someone they can trust to handle the ball where they can get Ben those easy looks, right? Ben is having to make plays, even for himself, from 23 feet away from the basket, and you can't consistently do that without a consistent jump shot. Now, I do think that the Warriors should do this for all the reasons that you guys outlined, because the timeline is there. You're talking about 3 stars above 30. You figure out the closing lineup, right? Like, if you need to add a shooter into that mix, I mean, you already have 2 of the greatest of all time. But if you need a 3rd for some reason, I think you can make that work. I also think that opens up the floor for Ben for sure. Now, my question to you, and Ramona, I'll ask you first.
Yeah.
How does a trade with Golden State help Philadelphia right now, who has championship aspirations?
Yeah, flat out it doesn't. And I think that this works more for Philadelphia if there's another team that would prefer what Golden State can offer, okay? Another team, I don't know, like the Wizards with Bradley Beal. I mean, my understanding, when the Sixers have talked about just in theory of whether or not Ben Simmons trades, Washington doesn't necessarily have an interest in Ben Simmons. Like you have to have somebody who wants Ben. So if you have somebody who wants Ben, i.e. the Warriors, if they end up deciding that makes sense for their team, then the package the Warriors send doesn't necessarily go to Philly. I don't think the package of young players and Andrew Wiggins helps Philly at all. And Philly is in a state where they feel like they need to win now. This is Joel Embiid in his prime. You can't necessarily reload with draft picks.
All right, coming up, what's Summer League action without Jackie? Who had the better dunk, Peyton or Suggs?
Well, they're both great, but look at where Suggs, the timing is everything on this. That is so much harder than it looks here. You got to give me Suggs on this.
I agree, man. That like off the rebound there, didn't even catch and collect, just follow up back there. He said he wants to score more in the NBA.
And he's a smaller type of guy. He's not a huge guy to be able to go through the lane like that, time it like that, and yam it on everybody. It's pretty impressive, I would say.
I do like the lefty jam, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, also an homage to the mitten, right? Son of the glove. It's a great nickname.
It is good.
Come on. I mean, that is as apropos as it gets, for sure. So, shout out to all the summer leaguers out there. Keep doing your thing. On a yoga ball for what he claims is the first time he's been able to pull this off. First of all, Jackie, how long can you stand on a yoga ball, and do you buy that LeBron has never been able to pull this off?
First of all, I've had to do this, part of my rehab for my neck. It was not as long as LeBron, a quarter of this, and I don't believe he's never done it, although he does have the core to pull it off. It's all about the core.
Yeah, I mean, I do the WAF, which is kind of like a half ball, that's really hard too. So for him to do a full ball like that in shoes, which is actually harder than barefoot.
Man, Bron.
Pretty good.
Make it easy for the rest of us, man. You're making it hard. All right, next, make boosties. Isaac Okoro continues his assault on the NBA and on the rims. Ramona, is it time for NBA fans to get familiar with this particular young man?
You should be from last year, but you definitely will be next year, because I think the Cavs are going to be a little bit better. They seem like they are not perpetually rebuilding. They have a little focus on trying to do something this year.
Jackie, what do you think of Okoro?
Yeah, the Cavs have a nice little young core, and Okoro's part of that. He struggled a little bit early last year, but he really did come on. He has the skill set. This was a good draft pick for them.
Yeah, I like what the Cavs got. I mean, I know there was a lot of talk about Colin Sexton, but I like him as a player, and I love Darius Garland for sure. All right, it's time to run it back.
Sure.
Let's do it. Here we go. 2012, a little up and under here from our man J.R. Smith.
Jeez.
He's playing golf soon. So we figured, why not? If we're going to do this golf story about him, we might as well show people what he's got. Number 4, a 360 layup in San Antonio. Oh, hello. Hello, Denver, JR. Sixth man of the year, JR.
Right.
That is so hard. I would just get lost. How do you even know where the basket is at that point?
You forget about Denver, JR. He played there as long as he played in Cleveland.
Oh,
he was really good there.
The Garden was getting down there. Look at Carmelo excited there. Back door.
Melo, I love Melo there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that oop was not really an alley. It was just pretty low pass, too.
Number 2, a 360
I'm not sure what this has to do with golf, but
here he is, 360 in game. Good Lord.
You know what he did? That's like a receiver who just cleans up the pass for the quarterback.
Yeah, by the way, nice pass from Chauncey, though.
A little behind him, though. That's why he has to turn.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Chauncey put it on the money. I think JR just wanted to do that. Yeah. Here he is again. Posterizing Gary Neal. Whoa. Hello. J.R. Smith in Denver.
What's the reaction here?
Yeah. In Denver, he was amazing. We forget about this.
He got lost in the sauce,
Yeah.
Got lost in the sauce.
All right, welcome back to The Jump. We're not lost in the sauce. I'm George Sedano here with Jackie McMullen and Ramona Shelburne. So J.R. Smith, yes, you just saw him in our Run It Back. 35 years old. J.R. is enrolling at North Carolina A&T State University to pursue a degree in liberal studies and to play golf. Smith is waiting on the NCAA right now to sort out his eligibility. And yesterday, Smith talked about why he decided to go back to school. Let's take a listen.
I just try to educate myself, do something after basketball. They always told me I could go back whenever. when I was coming out of high school. So this is whenever for me. All of the game is pretty much on my own hands, and I don't have to worry about teammates to pass the ball to and receiving passes and playing defense. So I can just play my game and just have fun.
That's awesome. That's great. So, Jackie, what's your reaction to J.R. Smith going back to school and to play some golf?
So a couple of things. I love that J.R. Smith is going back to school, and I love Ray Allen was the one that told him to do that. I love it when these guys go back and get their degrees. I'm not thrilled with him playing golf, because if he's on this team, he's taking the spot of an 18, 19-year-old kid who may never progress beyond this athletically. So give those opportunities to the young fellas. And 3, please do not tell me that J.R. Smith is getting a golf scholarship, because my head will explode, okay? I hope he's just doing this on his own dime.
J.R. Smith is one of the best athletes ever in the NBA. I mean, he was legitimately good at baseball, at football, at golf, at basketball. He just so happened to be a lottery pick in basketball, but he's legitimately good at all of those other sports. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that he would go into a different sport now. Golf, I think when you're in your late 30s, that feels like a good move rather than playing college baseball or trying to go in the minor league. So I like that. I like that he's going to get his degree. And Jack, I'd be shocked if he took a scholarship away.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to pay his own way, Jackie. I think he can afford it.
Just want to be sure.
Yeah. Now the spot though is an interesting point. I do think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Look, and maybe JR could just kind of hang out and practice with them. Maybe he doesn't actually play and take up a roster spot. That would be cool. And maybe get in on some amateur stuff. There's plenty of amateur golf stuff around the country as well. All right, coming up, Sean, speaking of the Blazers there, you saw Dame apparently just responded to a Twitter user who tweeted at him, how much y'all want to bet that before the NBA season starts, the Lakers still get Damian Lillard? Dame tweeted back, bet $1 million. Now listen, okay, I don't know, unless there's some new salary cap I'm not familiar with, I don't feel like that's even possible, but Ramona Shelburne, this league and the salary cap and this Lakers team as well as anyone. It seems like Dame is just messing with us here.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that Dame's messing with us. It sort of reminds me of like when we get aggregated poorly and we snap back every once in a while. I think he's sort of tired of people just using him and his discussion for their own fun out there on Twitter. So it just felt like Dame was just cracking a joke.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get to Dame's new head coach, Chauncey Billups, who has some bold plans for Portland's offense. The Blazers' dynamic backcourt is known, obviously, for their three-point prowess. But Billups told Jay Allen of Rip City Radio, quote, I'm not one of those coaches that wants to shoot all threes and get up 50 threes. I don't believe in that. So, Jackie, I'll start with you. It seems like it could be interesting. Do you believe Chauncey's offensive philosophy, if that's the case, will work in Portland?
I do, because I think you could take this a whole bunch of ways, and here's how I take it. Portland was 29th in the league, George, in assists last year. Only the New York Knicks passed the ball around a little more. He wants more ball movement. That's what he should want. What Portland did last year is they were second in three-point attempts behind Utah. Where did it get them? He's not telling Dame Lillard, I guarantee you, hey, Dame, I want you to shoot less threes. That's not happening, okay? That's not what he's saying here. What he's saying here is let's penetrate and kick. I don't mind threes, but I don't want to live exclusively on them because we need better ball movement because what we did last year didn't work effectively or not. And you know what? He's right.
He said a lot of other things in that interview, too, mostly about their defense, which was 23rd in the league in allowing points in defense and 25th in opposing shooting percentage. That's where they need to get better. And if you're worried about your threes and how many you're taking, how many you're making, but you're not stopping anybody on the other end, that's where your problem is. And I think the other part that I thought he said that is really important for the Blazers, not just this year, but going forward in their future with Yusuf Nurkic, is that he thinks there's a lot more they can do with Nurkic and a lot more they can do with him in their offense. He's a great passing big. They can get him a lot more involved in their offense. And I think that's a point of emphasis for Chauncey. So the threes, if that's what you're hunting for, as Jackie pointed out, 29th in assists, that's not going to win you a lot of games. You also have to do it on the defensive end. And the big guy there who needs to get more involved, if you don't get him involved, he's not going to be happy.
Well, I've got good news for Dame and CJ. Can we bring that graphic back up on their three-point percentage and the amount of makes and the attempts and all that stuff? Well, he said 50. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they averaged 41 basically. Ooh. So you know what, Dave and CJ.
There you go.
To Jackie's point, you don't have to change very much of what you're going to do on offense. But I think Jackie made a great point, which is drive and kick. If you look at the teams that are most successful in the NBA and tend to win championships on offense, right? It's the teams that move the ball the most, right? It's the teams where your defense cannot set. Now, Ramona, you made an unbelievable point. Their defense. I mean, it was bad. I want to say, if I recall correctly, the Sacramento Kings had the worst defense in the history of the NBA last year. Portland, I think, finished in the top 5 all time as far as defense is concerned. Now, I may be wrong about that.
Last year's a bit of an outlier.
No, for sure. I get that. But it hasn't been good, and it has been trending to get worse over the years. And if there's one thing we know Chauncey's Mr. Big Shot. But those Detroit teams, Jackie, they could defend. There's no doubt about that.
Boy, could they. And there was a toughness to them, too.
And, George, Chauncey came from the Clippers. Clippers led the league in three-point shooting percentage last year.
Right.
So he's not averse to taking shots.
Right.
Taking those threes, just got to make them.
Yeah, we want to make sure. The reason we did this topic was so people don't take it out of context and be like, oh, Chauncey's this old school guy, doesn't want to shoot threes. We wanted to make sure everyone knows that's not exactly what Chauncey's saying here. So good luck to Chauncey there. But let's shift to the Eastern Conference. Brooklyn has signed Kevin Durant to a 4-year extension, as we heard and was reported previously. Nets general manager Sean Marks said Wednesday he's, quote, very confident that both James Harden and Kyrie Irving will be signed, sealed, and delivered before training camp starts. So, Ramona, the Nets have already given the bag to KD, but are you confident Kyrie and Harden will also sign their extension?
Yeah, I'm confident. I mean, initially, the impression I had was that all three of these guys were going to sign their extensions at the same time. There was going to be more of a show that all three of them were teaming up and signing extensions at the same time. But, summertime, people get busy. Kyrie left Rock Nation. He's got to sort out his representation. James has been traveling around Europe. I mean, it just seems like there's been other things going on with both Kyrie and with James.
He was with the baby, I believe, in Europe. There was a big picture that circulated around the internet with that. But Jackie, how about you? How do you feel about their potentials of signing the extension with Brooklyn?
Well, Sean Marks is a very, very careful man. He's been around the league a long time, obviously done a fantastic job in Brooklyn. There's no way on earth he would even suggest this if it wasn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. And because what we know of Kyrie, people projecting things on behalf of him, if there was even an inkling of a doubt, Sean Marks never would have said this. So I expect them all back. If you're James Harden, why would you even think twice about this? I would have signed it 4 weeks ago or whenever I was eligible. So, yeah, this will get done.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And the reality is this. They've teamed up for a reason, so why wouldn't you sign the extension? I mean, logic just says you guys made all this happen, you want it to come together, you see it through, and you give yourself a window to potentially reach your goal, which is to win a championship or maybe even multiple championships.
There's not a huge sense of urgency, though. Both those guys are under contract for a while, so it doesn't have to get done right now. By training camp would be better, though.
Okay. Well, there was a sense.
Just remember, it wasn't Harden, Durant, and Kyrie. It was Kyrie, Durant, and DeAndre Jordan. Harden joined the party late, so he wasn't part of that original pact.
Yeah, no doubt. So, speaking of timeliness and contracts, it didn't go so great. He bet on himself and he lost. Schroeder spent 1 season in Los Angeles with the Lakers, turned down a 4-year, $84 million offer from Los Angeles in March to instead test free agency. Now, he's headed to Boston on a 1-year deal for $5.9 million, which is the taxpayer mid-level exception. So, Jackie, will Dennis Schroeder's free agency gamble serve as a cautionary tale for players moving forward?
So you would think it would, except for my experience with these players is they all have great positive self-talk. They all believe in themselves. That most of them are saying, well, that was him, man. That's not me. So I don't really think this will change any player's mind if he really believes in himself. And it's usually the agents that are trying to guide you through this process. So Dennis Schroeder, look, this was a miscalculation. As part of a lot of things went awry. I will say this on terms of the Celtics end of it. If you said to me the Celtics signed Schroeder to a 4-year, $70 million contract, I'd say that's a huge mistake. A 1-year, $5.9 million contract for a team that's super thin at the point? Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me? This fell right in their lap. This is maybe one of the best signings of the summer in terms of value for price.
Brad Stevens, Executive of the Year already. Look at that. He just got the job, and he's already headed that direction. Ramona, you've got some stuff on this here.
Well, look, with the Dennis Schroeder's story is he comes to the Lakers. They went out and traded for him. Remember, they traded a first-round pick and Danny Green for Dennis Schroeder. They showed they wanted him. And the first thing he did in joining a championship team is say, I want to start. Wasn't a good start to get off. It wasn't a good start to his Laker tenure. I mean, the Lakers had just won a championship, so to come in and say I want to start when you haven't done anything in training camp or earned anything, that was a big proclamation. I think that was the start of when they realized this may not work out very well. And his best years in the NBA have been as a sixth man. That year in Oklahoma City where he finished second in the sixth man of the year voting, that's what made the Lakers want to go trade for him. They believed in him. They wanted him to do more. They gave him that latitude, said, okay, the starting's important to you, then we're going to try to make that work. But not only did they go out and give him that offer that made him a really big offer, after they traded for Russell Westbrook, my understanding is they went and circled back around to him and talked with him about a shorter term deal, 1 year, sort of a softer offer for more money than he got with the Celtics, and he wasn't interested in that either. So it wasn't just the $84 million contract that extension he turned down during the year. There was a circling back with him afterwards. Ends up in Boston. Maybe that'll be a better fit, Jackie, because I think he has a bigger role there in Boston where he can rebuild his value.
That's it. It's just 1 year, right? So he has a chance to rebuild his value, and he has to be he has to do everything they ask of him so that people begin to look at him again as a guy that can be a good teammate and a guy that can fit on any team. So this is a win-win for the Celtics and Schroeder in my mind.
Well, listen, all I can say is this, all right? The money part, we've seen the reported stuff that he was in shock or whatnot. Look, I don't know if he's married or not, but Mrs. Sedano would have me sleeping out on the curb, okay, if I passed on $84 million. That's all I'm going to say. So if the bosses want to offer me $84 million, I will gladly take it. Or any team, whoever, anyone want to offer me that kind of money.
Rookie contract, so he's made some money at least.
All right, so coming up, Dennis Schroeder in the Lakers and ending up in Boston. Now, here's a former Laker who also played in Boston. The Lakers are considering the potential signing of Isaiah Thomas, according to Mark Stein. Jackie, you've been around IT. Do you expect him to be back in the NBA this season?
I would love for someone to give him a shot, George. I think he can still play. I think he can help teams. I think he's already taken his expectations and put them in the proper place, much the way Melo did before he had to come back in. I really hope someone gives him a spot.
I don't see him on the Lakers this year, but he did have a good run with the Lakers a couple of years ago, and people thought that wouldn't work either because they had a young team with Lonzo Ball, and he actually was really well liked by the coaching staff and the players on that team.
Yeah, and I also don't love the fit with LeBron. They tried that in Cleveland that one time too, and it didn't necessarily work out there either. So, you know, I feel like IT has a place in the NBA, especially to your point, Jackie, if he's figured out that he can play a specific role. So good luck to him, for sure.